video, we're going to see how you can place samples into a container. From the Q view, you're going to select your samples and place them into your virtual ice bucket. In the ice bucket will be where you can make a decision of the container placement. Depending on the throughput of samples, you may have the option to plate your samples into different container types. If you were always performing this step in a 96-well plate, then there would be no other options in the dropdown. Here we have a few options: 96-well plate, tube, 8-strip tube, 12-strip tube, and 384-well plate. These are all plates that have been pre-configured on the configuration screen. As long as a container is pre-configured, it can be used on a step. We are going to start this example with a 96-well plate. On the left-hand side of the screen is the 8 samples I selected from the ice bucket. On the right-hand side of the screen is the container, which is going to be the output to this step. First, we will review the manual way to plate these samples. You can individually drag and drop the samples into any well on the right-hand side of the screen. If you try to drag and drop a sample in an already filled well, you will get a pop-up with the error "Destination is occupied." Now we're going to clear the plate and utilize one of the placement strategies. If I click empty container, all of the samples will go back to the original plate. In this example, we're going to plate our samples by column. If I select all of my samples and drag and drop them to the plate on the right, we will see that they are filling the next available well in column order. At the top of each container, you will have a unique identifier, which usually starts with 27-. You can change this to whatever you would like by typing or scanning right into this box. If there is some type of naming convention for your plates, that can be updated with LabLogic Toolkit or a custom script. If you click on the printer, this will show you the print sample list. This gives you a table showing the source container information and the destination well of the container. If you scroll down, you will see a graphical map of the plate. For lower throughput labs, I have seen techs print this out and bring it to the bench as a checklist when they are doing their manual transfer of samples. Let's empty the container and begin again. Now, if we wanted to take our samples and put them on 2 different output plates, we can do that simply by clicking the plus button. This will add a second output plate and then you can break apart your samples however you see fit. You can delete the plate by clicking the trash can icon next to the plus. All of what we've seen so far has been the manual placement. If you know that you're always going to stamp your samples into a new plate, you can turn on the auto placement toggle, which is on the configuration tab. By toggling this over, you will see the step now becomes an auto placement step. Then if we go back to our actual step, abort, and then begin the work, we will see that the placement screen has been completely skipped over, and we were brought directly into the record details screen. If you want to confirm that the samples were plated correctly, you can click the milestone marker of Place Samples. This will bring us back to the placement screen, and we can see that the samples were stamped into their original placement on a new container. Another thing that I wanted to cover on this topic is if you choose to plate your samples into a tube. If this is not a pooling step, you will just be dragging samples, one sample to one tube. To save the user the additional clicks, the placement screen is completely skipped. Clarity LIMS assumes that it is a one-to-one placement, and then you have the opportunity to update the tube name on the record detail screen. If you find the container name column down at the bottom in sample details, you can click into here and change the name of your tubes. And finally, placement into a pool. First, we're going to grab some samples to pool. And view the ice bucket. You do have to select what type of container the final pool is going to live in. If that happens to be a 96 well plate, then the placement is going to be twofold. First, you will create the pool, and then you will place the pool into its final plate. Here we have the pool sample screen and the pool creator. If you try to pull together samples that have the same indexes, you are going to get an error that says you cannot pull duplicate labels. This just means that these samples have been indexed with the same barcode. If you are pulling samples together with the same indexes, and this is something that should be allowed in the lab, this is simply a toggle switch that can be turned on and off. You can make additional pulls by clicking the green plus button and then dragging and dropping the appropriate samples into the appropriate pool. You can also rename your pools by selecting the pool and then changing the name in this box. Since we're plating these final pools into a 96 well plate, once the pools have been made, our next screen is going to be the place sample screen. And here we will drag and drop our pools into the 96 well plate.